Hey everyone, Mr. Sugeno here. In today's video, I'm going to go over a Kickstarter that has been gaining a lot of popularity online in the retro gaming community, and that is the next gen N64 controller by Retro Fighters. Let's get started. So in a nutshell, this Kickstarter is basically just a third-party Nintendo 64 controller. The big difference here is the shape of it. So, looking at this, they're saying making a functional modern take on the N64 controller. No more three-pronged controller. Comfortable and practical next generation design. It has currently smashed its target. So it had a $13,000 goal. It's currently got $56,643. There are 1,937 backers, and there's still a very healthy 28 days to go. So right away, these guys have met and exceeded in leaps and bounds their original Kickstarter goal. Alright, so judging by the picture, it looks pretty cool. Let's scroll down a little bit and learn more about the controller. What's different? So they've made the controller more ergonomic. They've added a new analog stick as opposed to the horrible N64 analog stick. Apologies to those people who really like the analog stick on the N64. I really don't like it at all. Looking here as well, they've made the C button slightly larger, so that's good. And they've added two Z buttons. Oh, okay, so I originally thought this was R1, R2, L1, L2, but it looks like it's just going to be L and R and then the same button for Z on both sides. So it doesn't matter if you use it the right trigger or the left trigger, it'll pull the exact same button, I guess, on the controller. Alright, why no USB? It would have cost us a lot more time and money to come up with a controller with both N64 and USB functionality. The software and time to do so would have been too long to complete and too costly. However, if you do want to use the N64 controller for PC, it is possible. There are several cheap adapters in the market that you can purchase online to play N64 Retro Fighters controller with your PC, Mac, or RetroPie. If this Kickstarter is successful, so this is very important right here. If this Kickstarter is successful, we plan to release a second USB version of this controller. So that is very significant because this controller alone is just for the N64. You can get an adapter to plug it in with the PC, and I will say those adapters are very hit and miss on whether or not they will actually work. However, if you are planning on using this with PC, they are coming out, it seems like it, because this Kickstarter looks like it's going to be successful, with a second USB version of the controller. So that is very, very cool. So looking at the timeline here, that is very quick. So finish molding process, 30 days. Test and confirm, 5 days. Go into production, 45 days. Shipping time by air, 5 days. So that means more than likely, I'm going to assume you'll have it before Christmas, give or take. Maybe? Alright, and cost. Cost, we wanted to keep the cost down as much as possible, yet not skimp on quality. I appreciate that. We're selling these versions at $20 each. That is very, very inexpensive. Memory cards and Rumble Pack are compatible, which is also pretty awesome. So you can plug your Rumble Pack into this, you can plug your memory cards into this. That is pretty awesome. Let's look at the stretch goals here. $13,000 is funded. $20,000 gets additional color options. Backers get to vote on the next color option. That's really cool. $30,000 is the more limited edition color options. So this has already passed all those, so I'm really interested to see now what those color options are going to be. It's kind of giving me that same feel of the original Nintendo 64 controller, where they had so mmany colors. I mean, I have a purple one, the see-through purple one. There's just the standard gray one. They had like a green one. They have a ton of colors for them. So I'm assuming this is going to follow suit. I hope. It'd be really cool to see one of those transparent purple controllers coming out. Okay, and now we'll head up to the backer tiers. $1 or more is just the support pledge. $20 gets you the N64 controller. So just for an N64 controller for a third party design like this, that to me seems fairly inexpensive, especially if you actually still play the N64. $30 or more gets you a controller and a poster. $45, your name gets listed in the instruction manual. That's pretty cool. $100 gets you the Retro Fighters t-shirt bundle. So you get the controller, you get a poster, you get an instruction manual, and a t-shirt. $200 or more get you into the VIP club. Receive all incentives above and be part of the Retro Fighters VIP club. Receive all current and future Retro Fighters branded products for free. Also get access to future Retro Fighters accessories before launch. That's pretty darn cool. Alright, so my initial thoughts on the tiers. First and foremost, this is one of the very, very few Kickstarters that I am actually interested in the top tier. A lot of them are priced extremely high, and for me, I'm not that big of a fan of a lot of this stuff when it comes out that I would ever want to pay, for example, like the $3,000, $5,000 tiers. But this one is extremely modest. It's $200, and it's one of the very few that I'm actually interested in because it's looking right here. You receive all current and future Retro Fighters branded products for free. So that's a big plus, and that's pretty cool. Also, just noting here, the $45 or more tier, your name gets listed in the instruction manual. Now that is really cool, but I would say that I'd actually be considerably more interested in just doing two $20 tiers. So you get two controllers, it'll cost you $40, and you save $5. So instead of a controller and your name in an instruction manual, you get two controllers for player 1 and player 2. Now, I'm really liking this Kickstarter, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about Retro Fighters here. So, looking at them, they do already make a controller that looks extremely similar to this one. So I'll bring up the picture here. You can see it. I'll flip over to the Amazon ad, and this one is for the NES, PC, or Macintosh. Here is the N64, the NES, and the USB attachments. So you can see here this plugs into the computer, or whether it's a PC or Mac, and that plugs right into the NES. Now this one will just have the N64 port. So that is something to note. If you do want PC compatibility, it might make more sense just to hold off until they release it, considering they've already smashed their goal. And moving on from that, looking at the reviews of this, because always look at the reviews of something they've made, it's fairly positive. So it doesn't seem to be an overly popular controller, and I can tell you why for a few major reasons. First and foremost, it's a retro controller. Secondly, there are only really a couple buttons here, so it's not like a fully functional controller that you could use with a large variety of games. You can use it for NES games or other games that require very few buttons. But the reviews themselves are pretty good. I read this one. This guy says a faulty D-pad. Wrong presses were registered 5 to 10% of the time. So it says here if I pressed right and only right, but towards the bottom of the tab it registered as a diagonal press. I will say that that is fairly common in D-pads. It's not uncommon for that to happen, and it might just be a very sensitive D-pad. and that might actually be a benefit. So I would actually like to try that out, but it looks like the other one's 5 stars, 4 stars, works well on NES. This guy watched some videos, says nice design, works well. This guy says here, must own for retro enthusiasts. So for $20 on this NES or N64 controller, it's actually not that bad. That is extremely reasonable, especially if you do need a new controller. Because I'll say first and foremost, if I was faced on using an original Nintendo 64 controller or a controller that's laid out like this, even though I played a ton and still play a ton at N64, I would go for a controller like this any day of the week. It looks nicer. It probably feels a lot nicer. It's not awkward to use. And I'd be really excited to play something like Zelda with this controller, or even Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 64 with this controller. It looks good. So, in closing, my impressions overall on this controller, I think based on their current products that they have out, especially the Retro Fighter, the NES style controller, I think that this is going to be a fairly decent controller, and really for $20 you can't complain. So me personally, I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to back this, because I am extremely interested in the N64 and PC compatibility. And then they said they're going to hopefully release that if this one's successful. And that's the one I'm really interested in. As you all know, I'm a huge fan of emulation, and being able to use this on my computer for emulators would just be amazing. So I might wait for the USB version. However, if you are in need of an N64 controller, I would probably recommend picking this one up. It looks cool. I haven't tried it out yet, so I can't say based on quality or anything like that, but for $20 and for a new controller for your N64, this might be a good pick. That's all I've got for today. Thank you, everyone. Take care.